What's mine is mine and what's yours is mine. Is it? Let me explain what I mean by that. We're going to talk about a very important concept, if you will, called separate property. What does that mean? Separate property is any property, for instance, that you acquired before your marriage, or for that matter, any property you may acquire after your separation or divorce. In order to really understand this concept, I think it's important to draw a distinction between what's called community property and separate property. Community property is this, simply. When you get married, you're agreeing to share in everything with your spouse. A common example I use with prospective clients is half of every dollar you earn while you're employed is now your spouse's, and half of every dollar your spouse earns is now yours. So it's married money, or what we refer to technically as community property. So again, while you're married and until you separate, any asset acquired or any debt accrued is community property. However, this video is about separate property, so let me explain this separate property concept. If, by way of example, I purchased a car before I was married and the car's paid in full, then if I get divorced, that car is mine. It's my separate property. My spouse does not have an interest or entitlement in it. Here's where things can get a little tricky though. Let's say, for instance, I purchase a home before I get married, but I have a mortgage on it. A couple years later, I get married. Now, I purchased that home. It should presumptively be my separate property, and it generally is. However, if there's a mortgage on it, and while I'm married, my spouse and I are making mortgage payments to it, my spouse is now having an accruing interest in that house. So a very important distinction to draw in this separate property concept is, again, is it something I had before I was married or after I separated? If it's before I was married, then was it paid in full? And if it was, great, then it's going to be deemed your separate property and your spouse is not going to have any entitlement to it. However, if there's any sort of obligation attached to it, whether it's a mortgage or a finance payment, and these were being made while you were married, then it may not necessarily be your separate property. If you found this video insightful, please be sure to watch the next video by clicking here, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.